Hi, welcome to the 18th season of the Productized podcast. My name is Pedro Ganço and I'm hosting today's episode. Today we're having a very special guest outside of the world of product management. We have here with us Inês Moura, an executive voice coach with over a decade of experience helping leaders and professionals enhance their communication skills. Inês is also an author, having recently published her book, The Secret Power of the Voice. I have it here with me. We will talk briefly on it. And I believe we're going to have a very interesting conversation today, where product managers may discover some of their power may exist within their own voices. So Inês, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Pedro, for this invitation. I'm really excited for having this.
Me too. I think we're going to have a very good conversation today. And now for the benefit of our audience, before we go into the details of this power of the voice, I want to know, who is Inês Moura? Tell us a bit about yourself. What has been this journey of yours of exploring the power of the voice?
Yeah, so a vocal coach is something that is not very, very common. I'm a vocal coach, as I was saying. I'm based in Brussels, and I focused in the last years, over a decade, to help professionals, a range of professionals, to, I would say, deliver their message in the best way. So from leaders to founders to even their teams to experts, which are very good technically, but sometimes they lack the impact in the message. So what I try to do is to bridge the gap between your expertise and your credibility to the way you engage your audience and influence your public with your messages. So this is where I focused in the last few years. My passion for voice started actually when I graduated in speech therapy, 2008. I chose voice as my final subject for my thesis. And it was actually how to listen to voices and to categorize voices as if it's normal, if it's not normal, and if it's not normal, what is the problem? So I specialized and I started training my ear back when I was a student. And I actually fell in love with this area. And because of that, my voice professor back then invited me when I finished my studies to work on his startup back then, which was focused on helping professionals, lawyers, politicians, leaders, and teachers as well. I mean, all categories of professionals to use their voice. So I started working there. I also did the research on voice a few years later, and I discovered that I wanted to focus on, I would call, normal voices, because when we are in speech therapy, you basically learn how to fix things, how you fix a voice and how you make it normal. But what happens when a voice is already normal and you want to make it even better? More interesting, more confident, more assertive. So that was where I focused. And I saw there wasn't too much people working on this in the market. So you either have singing teachers or vocal coaches oriented with a more artistic side, or you have, speech therapists fixing voices. So what happens with this gray area where you have a voice, you might not even be in love with your voice, and some people will probably feel the same way, resonate with that, and you just want to be a better professional and more engaging and have more impact. So that's what I focus. And after that, I specialize even more in the corporate world. So I moved from Porto in Portugal to Lisbon, and I started working with a consultancy company on media training, public speaking, presentations, where I was a vocal coach, but also coach in other areas on presenting. And I specialize in leaders, which was a good school because they have so little time and they want so much the results that I really need to focus, like, what are the best exercises to do in 1 hour? Because, the CEO only has 1 hour. And that was a good exercise that then also helped me when I was approached by the publisher in Portugal to write a book about voice, the very first book for the general public to understand and use voice in their professional context. So I had to what exercises should I choose? How do I explain which is a science, voice is a science, and try to make it as understandable and digestible as possible. And finally, I moved to Brussels 6 years ago. I started my company, and now I work worldwide, mostly remotely. And I help experts and leaders in more than 20 countries now. That is how it started and how it's going.
Fascinating career you have. And you mentioned 2008, almost 2 decades, almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
You're in love with voice.
Yeah, my first contact with voice was in 2006. So when I started the university, because we had voice every single year of university, the 4 years, we have the subject of voice, like different areas. So we had one that was very practical. So you actually go to the class and you do voice exercises from the beginning until the end. So you learn the exercises that you later you do with your clients. And I remember one day I was late. I woke up really late and I was half an hour late for my voice session, for my voice class, which of course my professor was not very happy. And I noticed, because I skipped the warm-up and the first part, that I couldn't do the exercises on the rest of the class. So I said, okay, this is not just theoretical. Like either you do it and you have a result, or if you skip some steps, then you cannot have the same results that I was having in the previous classes. So that was the first insight I have about my own voice, that actually these exercises, they work on what I want to do next, which was voice projection, for example.
Super cool. And you've been a pioneer in this area, because I do remember a few years ago actually searching for help, because I did wanted to improve on the voice, and there was not much of an offer out there. The first time I met you was simple Google search, and even today, after almost 2 decades, I feel is still a bit underserved niche, voice performance, isn't it?
Yeah, because a voice is an art and is a science. So you have the two worlds in the voice. And even when you go to congresses about voice, you always have the artistic research and you have always the scientific research. And so I would say maybe 90% of the market is either singing offer. So you learn your voice by former opera singers.
Of a musical instrument.
Exactly, as a musical instrument. Also, you have in hospitals and clinics voice rehabilitation, and you only have maybe 10% of vocal coaches or voice coaches focused on the non-artistic voice. So only for
performance and communication.
For meetings, public speaking. So that is very rare. Even in Brussels, I thought everyone speaks here. You have the Parliament, you have the European Commission, the lobby associations, and actually there wasn't that much people in this area specialized in voice. You might have some public speaker coaches or people in the singing or the theater world that might give some advice on voice, but they are not voice experts. That is a bit rare.
Yeah. So I'm even now more privileged to have you here with us, and I think the audience will benefit. You've also recently published the book, The Secret Power of the Voice. I had the chance to read some parts of it already, and it's filled with practical examples on how one can exercise and improve the communication skills. I liked also how you structure it in a kind of a journey, a hero's journey, the assessment, going through all the steps to make it better. And right in the beginning, you established some kind of self-assessment one can do to find some of the common flaws. I think I have 5 out of 10, the ones you mentioned.
Pedro.
But now I want to ask you, on your experience, what are the most common issues people tell you about they want to improve on their voice?
Yeah. As you, I think the majority of my clients, they, for almost their lives, they survived without doing voice training because, you go through university, the bar is not that high, when it comes to presenting and especially if you have a more technical job, you might, don't be exposed to really high impact or high level meetings until you are in a certain point of your career. So I work mostly with people that are in that phase of their career around 35 until 45 years old, when they see that I need to do something different to get ahead. I need to do something to advance my career. I will get more visibility. I will get exposed to more senior management or decision makers, and the way I communicate my ideas, it's to make it or break it. I mean, it's the way I get ahead with pitching what I do, or getting a better job, or changing a career. So for most people that go for this type of help, I think what they start to notice is that they lose the attention of the audience quite quickly. So they don't manage to really engage people with their messages. People start to lose attention. You might have a lot of people with the camera, that maybe are doing other things. And for those who work remotely, which is the case of probably most people hearing this, so you don't know that if you are having an impact or not. So the audience is not engaged. They look at their phones, they look at their email. The answer they give to you is not maybe the most, responsive or assertive. And so that you feel that you are losing your audience attention somehow. at some points. But there are other things, such as some people struggle because they speak very softly, and so they don't project also enough energy and confidence when they speak. You also have people that speak really fast, and they sometimes have they lose the control of the breathing. You also have people that don't they feel they have a more like nasal sound or monotone, or
Guilty.
others also feel that they give the impression that they are nervous. Even when they are prepared and they are not nervous, the voice might not be as firm and deep and assertive and well established as they want it. And one last thing, a bit less common, but also it's common enough for me to mention, is that you feel exhausted after speaking for a day of meetings. And that is not normal, to feel exhausted after speaking. So your voice, if it's with, I would say, good quality, and if you are using the right technique, you should not even think about your voice during the day, because it carries the energy that you want.
In what transformations have you witnessed on people going through your voice coaching after a few sessions? What have you witnessed? Any things you want to share with us? Some success cases?
Yes. So first, I think everyone is surprised. And one very common feedback on the very first session of any of my programs is that, wow, I didn't know that the voice could change so fast, because I always record the voice in the beginning, like 1 minute, even 1 or 2 minutes, the voice in the beginning and at the end. Talking about something about your work, some work-related content that for me is not important, the content in these sessions, in these vocal coaching sessions, not the presentation ones. And so I invite you to record your voice in the beginning to be as spontaneous as possible. Then I guide you through exercises. And then at the end, you record again the same content, but then you can hear the changes in your voice. And it's very rare that you don't listen a clear difference in the first session already. So that is very motivating for my clients, because you feel that, oh, there's hope. This is the first feedback. And my voice actually is much more flexible than what I thought. Okay, so that is the first big surprise, that you can have a difference in a 1 hour, or of course, if I do like a flash intervention, you can have a difference in 30 minutes. But of course, then it's not very common that I only have 30 minutes with someone. But I mean, it happened in the past. So in 1 hour, you feel the difference. In 1 month, you feel that you are already mastering or starting to master what was your priority goal, because I always have like 2-3 goals in a program. So you start changing the first consistently to start feeling a change in your first priority. In about 3-4 months, you already have so many tools that you can play with, that you feel that you finally, you're upgrading your speaking style. You are not going back anymore. You cannot just go back and be less interesting, more monotone. Yes. You really want to raise the bar, and you have the tools to do it. So from, say, 1 session to 8 sessions or 2, you will really see a progress, like a step-by-step progress, where you are doing things that you couldn't imagine that you were doing. I mean, I'm not saying that's something crazy, like, okay, now I'm from being an introvert to an extrovert, but aligning with your style and with your personality, you can really do much more than what you think. And so, yeah, you can...
That's amazing.
Yeah, you can... And for me, for example, it seems a bit controversial, but if you are someone who's really tired, going back to feeling tired after speaking, from being tired, and that also translates in your message that you are less enthusiastic. If you are with a tired voice, then you also tired your audience, because it's less quality, it's more difficult to listen, it conveys less energy, less emotion, less convincing. And so if after 3 months or 2 months of work on your voice, and when I say like a session every 2 weeks, so it's not even every week, you forget that you had a voice problem. So if the voice is not an obstacle anymore, for me, I call it a success, because you take it out of your mind. Cure.
That's something that you can, after a few sessions, can actually not only improve, but take the tools with you, so that you can always be...
Yeah, because your brain is smart, and if you can do something with less effort, because our brain is smart and is always looking for more efficiency, why are you using a pattern that is more tiring just by habit, because you build it like that way, intuitively? So what I would do is to help you find your natural voice. And I wrote that part in my book, the difference between the habitual voice and the natural voice. The habitual voice is the one that you build out of imitation, habits, even postural habits. Like a lot of things contribute for the way you speak right now, but it's not necessarily the best voice, or it's not necessarily your physiological and natural voice. And that should be done without any effort, is flexible, is pleasant, is easy to produce. And yeah, so we try to go back to what is your natural voice. And then from there, you can play and do whatever you want.
So I actually adjusted my posture before talking with you because I read it on the book that it actually can affect the way you
A lot,
sound.
yeah.
There was also another interesting thing you mentioned about being fearful or tired in the conversation, how it reflects on other people. Actually, I did some training before on presentations, and one tip that I keep thinking about is you will always be the less enthusiastic people in a conversation. So if your energy levels are this high, everyone listening to you will be below. So you actually need to be not tired when you are speaking to an audience.
And that is one thing that it's actually very common. A lot of my clients want to, and I think everyone wants to sound authentic. And one common question is, Inês, if I train my voice, I will sound less authentic. I will sound rehearsed. I will sound like a bit more too much polished, and then therefore I will not, be effective. And the answer is no. So when you gain tools, you actually can be more authentic. It's not a way that, I will lose authenticity. No, you will gain authenticity. And by having the right techniques for different contexts, such as it's different to have a one-on-one meeting, the voice level that you need, the energy that you need is different to speak one person than speaking to 1,000 people, or in a video or in a presentation. So every time that you change the context, your voice has to adapt. And there's a rule, like the bigger the audience, the bigger has to be the voice. Everything has to be bigger. The voice expressiveness, the voice intonation, the volume, everything has to be bigger if you're speaking with a bigger audience, right? And why? That might feel less authentic to you because you will not speak with your mother like that, or someone with a friend. But actually for an audience, someone who is like 10, 15, 50 meters away from you, they will not feel it less authentic. They will feel the right level of performance.
So context also impacts. It's not only
the size of the room, the size of the audience, the context. You have to perform according to these different, say, goals as well, and these different settings. Otherwise, you will just sound flat and absolutely... absolutely boring.
Yeah. And tell me, Inês, how was the experience of putting all that knowledge of yours and condensing it in this book? How was the experience to put it all together?
So you want the Polish answer or the truth? The true answer.
Give me the truth one. How hard
it's
it
a
was.
torture. Writing a book is a torture. No, I'm kidding. First of all, the book that you have is the updated version and translated version from the previous book, which I wrote in Portuguese 6 years ago. So 6 years, 8 years, I wrote the book because it took 1 year to write everything and then 1 year to finalize all the details, marketing, the graphic part, illustrations, etc. So what I did when I was invited to write the book, because it was not by initiative. This is important. You are challenged. So I never thought about writing a book when I was 27. I thought, no, I need at least 30 years of experience to write a book. And then said, yes, Inês, but you are the expert in Portugal about this. So there's no one. Not saying there is no one, but you seem the most qualified for this project, at least. And so I, of course, asked for advice of older colleagues, order on Amazon or, bookshops, all the voice books I could find. Some of them I read it in university, but I really like from authors in the US, in the UK, in Canada, from every different kinds of experts and voice types. And I read them all over summer. I'm not kidding. So I read all these books and I took notes of the things that I liked and the things that I didn't like for my book. And one thing that I didn't like, and this is one of the things that is different from my book from all the others, is any other book speaks about habits. Any other book speaks about changing habits. And that makes a total difference, because you can have a book full of exercises, but if they don't tell you how you can use those exercises in your daily life, how you can incorporate these little changes in your meetings, how you can use your commute, your when you are taking a shower, when you are preparing in the meeting room, when you are still waiting for your colleagues. If you don't change these little habits, there's no real change. So one thing is to do exercises as like a parrot. You have someone say, okay, do this exercise and repeat. There's no actual change in your brain when you do an exercise and you repeat without having an intention, without being guided, without having to reflect on that experience, that learning experience, without finding a way to hack yourself and change the habit. So there's no change on that. And I realized that it was important to bring my coaching methodologies and my coaching knowledge to, if I want to change a behavior, voice is a result, is a behavior. I have to go back and see what is causing this behavior and change the habit, go to the root cause. Otherwise, the change will take forever. And so that was I tried to put in my book. So voice, yes, exercises in a very, say, step-by-step way. And with there's a logical sequence in the book why you start with those first exercises and, how you finished with the last ones. But I think the initial focus on preparing for the journey and make sure you have a goal, because I like to say that I'm not the voice police and I don't want to criticize a voice because, you are doing right or wrong. The question is always, what is your goal? And then you work towards your goal and you use the exercises for your goal. Otherwise, it's just theoretical and not effective.
I find that fascinating because just very recently I discovered about I think they call it the neurological pyramid in NLP. And that for change to actually happen, it's not just a matter of giving knowledge or skills. You need to change your environment. You need to change your habits. You need to get the skills, then you need to reframe your identity, your self-beliefs, and then eventually all those layers working towards the goal will actually make the change happen. So I find it fascinating that you crack it. Like it's not only just giving like a speech therapy, like prescription, do this and you'll be fixed. No, it's actually
no one needs to be
fixed.
No, it's such a big conversation. And what is actually fascinating in voice is that you go and you reframe your identity as well. Like that's what I find. It's not just voice exercises, like pure muscular changes. And you do this exercise and you achieve this tone and you do this with your abdomen and then you project. I mean, it's not like that. I mean, that's so reductive, which the power of voice. The power of voice is to really upgrade your power as like your personal power. You feel really that you are more confident, that you can be and achieve more than what you think, that the way you express your ideas in the world can really shape the way your life goes, the way your career.
You can be assertive, you can be confident.
Yes.
All through the voice.
And so many people, like even this week, I had a director from a big shopping mall, and she said, Inês, I'm not a good storyteller. And she said that like 3 times. I'm not a good storyteller. I cannot tell stories. And I work with her like a very small like storytelling structure. And immediately her voice had more color. She had more intonations. She made pauses in the right places. I mean, everything. And you are telling a story. And that is a very good story, like professional related, not like a story from, a little girl, etc.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah,
narrative.
A narrative. And she was like, oh, yes, but Inês, I'm not a good storyteller. Like, okay, maybe it's time, now that you have tools and the experience and you know that you can do it, to reframe that you actually, I'm not saying that you go from I'm not a good storyteller from I'm the best storyteller in the world, but there's like a margin.
Self-limiting belief and the self-talk we have.
A lot. And that affects so much the voice that actually I felt the need of having a coaching, an NLP certification really early in my career, because I thought only voice exercises don't work. That's why if you go on internet, on YouTube, you have plenty of vocal coaches giving you advice on how to deepen your voice. But that is not changing who you are. That is not sustainable because you are not reframing
all those other layers.
All the other layers, emotional, psychological, the confidence, all the things that affect the voice. The voice exercises, I would say, just the tip of the iceberg.
And quick break, did you know this year's Productized conference is a big one? We're celebrating our 10th edition. For a decade, we've been bringing product managers, designers, and innovators together in Lisbon for top-tier insights, interactive workshops, and invaluable networking. This year, it's bigger and better than ever with world-class speakers and special anniversary celebrations. Don't miss your chance to be part of it, October 16th to 17th in Lisbon.
Join us for the big celebration. Tickets are now available at www.productized.co. We hope to meet you there.
Wow, amazing. Where should one start? This is a journey, like you mentioned on the book. Where to start? I want to improve my communication skills. I want to be a leader that gets respected and heard, assertive. How can one start this journey?
Yeah. So first, I think reading my book is a good start if you want to learn more about voice. Second, I also like for you to pay attention on others, like watching others and see what you like and what you don't like. For example, if you have a weekly meeting with some people from your team, or if you have a senior manager who you like very much, or the speaking style. So take notes about things that you like on others. You can also watch YouTube videos and say, okay, I actually like that way of speaking. I like the way that person makes pauses. I like how that person expresses emotion. So you can watch others and see what you like and what you don't like. And you can choose, for example, one of those characteristics to start playing with. And I think it's also important to not be afraid to record yourself and to listen back to it. And there's a very good AI tool where you can practice your speech, and you can practice a meeting, you can practice a role play, you can practice a job interview. It's called Udly.ai. And Udly is like a coach. So you train it's like a Zoom call or a Teams call, and you are recorded, and then it gives you the transcript of what you said and some insights on your pace, on your pauses, on your filler words, So I think it's really interesting because before what I was suggesting is, okay, record you with your phone, right? But if you record just with your phone and you don't get feedback, you are stuck in what you think you have done, right? Or you don't have the name you don't have the, let's say, technical terms to say, what did you like exactly?
What I need to fix or improve.
And that's a platform that I use with my clients, Udly. You have 5 speeches free for months, but then I think the subscription is also quite low. So if you really want to get into it, you can use it.
Could be a good investment.
Could be a good investment in maybe 20 euros per month. I don't remember the actual price now. They are changing sometimes, but you can have some insights on your speech, your assertiveness, if you are being concise or not, etc. So it's really interesting to sometimes to dedicate maybe like 10 minutes per week to just practice a few things and to start evolving from there.
I want to now blend this conversation towards more adjusted to the product managers that may be listening to us, because you know that product managers need to rely a lot on managing through influence and storytelling. We actually have zero authority, and we need to have lots of buy-in from different stakeholders. We need to onboard developers and designers to go along our ideas. We need to convince C-level to say, okay, this is the roadmap we believe is going to push product forward. So, but in reality, there's little to no hierarchical authority. So the only thing we have is the stories we tell and how we made those stories resonate with other people. So to resonate with the audience of product managers that may be listening to us, how can voice techniques help us be more assertive and influential? There's some data on it. It's like, how can a product manager benefit from improving their voice?
I think you answered the question when you said, that you need to be influential, therefore you need to use your voice. It's the vehicle for conveying, because when you convey a message, and even a written message has a tone, but the tone, the style you use for a message says a lot of things, and we judge a lot. Even listening to like 5 seconds of what you are saying, we are already judging a lot of things. How sure you are about that, how confident you are about the idea, what are the emotions behind the idea, what I feel when you say that, also what makes me feel. So there's a lot of layers that you should use to deliver the message. I give you a real example, a practical example. I had a client, he was a project manager, not product manager, but he wanted to present the same thing. He had to influence all the layers of the company. So he had this project that he really wanted to implement. So he really wanted to be for the people to adopt his idea. So he had 3 options. And this is also part of a non-violent communication framework where you can influence without being pushy, like be assertive, but without being too passive or too aggressive. So one of the things that he agreed was to give 3 options. The first is you don't want them to accept. You're just there to give some choice, but you don't really. So the second, it's so-so. You might want them. It's possible, but it's not the one that you like. And then he left the third, as I recommended, as the one that you want to discuss further, because we all remember better the last thing that we hear. There's in terms of memory. And so I also like how we strategize this. So the first one, he said it in a very monotone,
passive.
Yeah. Like, we can do this. So soft tone, monotone, no, like a bit unsure. The second, it was with a little bit more energy. Yes, so we can also do this. Yes, maybe, raising the pitch at the end, like this, maybe this.
With the question mark,
but
maybe we should do this.
Yeah, maybe we should do this. And then the third is like, yes, so, or we can like raising the volume, raising the pace and the tonality to be more convincing. I said, I don't know if that can be a bit of manipulation, but the thing is everyone accepted, the third option. And he was playing with his voice, like presenting the options with different grades of emotion. And so that made all the difference. I thought it was an excellent example. Like if you want to people accept an idea, how passionate you should be about talking about that option, and then the others keep it a bit more neutral. And then another example that I want to give is when you are worried about something, about the consequences of going in one direction, your voice should also show that you are worried. That is something that can go wrong. And then you have to show like an emotion of you are worried. There's like concern in the voice.
Your attention, focus here.
You see what I'm doing. I'm lowering the voice. I'm speaking my softy. Do you really want to go there? That can be a dangerous, path. So what about thinking about, and then contrast, the voice contrasts are really important. And then we can also do this. Of course, it might not work, but why not try? So showing emotions, like if you are worried, show that sense of urgency for people to pay attention. If you say it with a neutral voice, they think maybe it's not that important. But also if you put some more energy and a sense of, okay, let's accelerate this change, let's do this. Also, people will feel that, okay, yeah, this is really to do, that's the right decision. So, of course, you have to practice a little bit this, but at the end, it doesn't make sense to do otherwise because then it lacks congruence. So the voice has to go along with the message. And if the message is positive, then use a positive tone. If the message is more negative, then bring a negative tone. But it's always important to have contrast in your speech. So a neutral, a negative, and a positive emotion, at least.
Yeah, very interesting. Maybe now a product manager going back to work may start reflecting on the way they are pitching these ideas.
Absolutely.
Of assessing their tone of voice. Another challenge I want to bring to you is that nowadays many PMs work remotely via Zoom meetings where people, like you were saying, turn off their cameras or not that engage. Any tip or advice you would give for people that want to improve this communication through digital media?
Well, I give workshops only about that. There are so many techniques about make the audience feel engaged, but I will only talk about voice, and I will really start with a very, very basic thing, which is if you work remotely most of your time, and for people to listen to you in the best way possible, find a good microphone. Find a good microphone. I still hear so many people using their computer mics, their headphones mic, and if you use your voice professionally, and if you are a product manager, you are using your voice professionally, you are a voice professional, and then find professional instruments.
And gear to project.
Yeah, because otherwise it can really be tiring if I hear you like at the end of a tunnel, or if I hear the echo of the meeting, or if I hear some other things that many people do is use wireless microphones. So you use like your AirPods. It's terrible. Like AirPods, I'm not saying brands, but don't use AirPods to like anything that has that's wireless. in your meetings, and you can test with a colleague, like with and without, and with a good microphone. You can really hear a difference.
I actually resonate a lot with that, because when I was starting doing my first remote jobs a few years ago, I started noticing that after a 1 hour conversation, I was getting super tired because the person on the other side has a very crappy sound. So the noise in the background is giving me so much tiredness, and I actually couldn't listen. And I realized, oh, I think I'm the same. So I actually invested a lot in good gear.
Yep.
Thinking just about what you said. Maybe that's a very good practical tip that people can implement right away.
You might invest €100. You don't need to go to this gamer
extreme.
Oh, no, you have thousands of euros of gear. Don't do that. I personally use the Blue Yeti X microphone, but there's plenty in the market, which is a good compromise in terms of price quality. And if you invest in that, you just enhance so much the listening experience on the other side. So just cut off the noise so you can hear your voice clearly. And that already makes the audience much more attentive, because there's so many things that disturb, because you listen the content, but also our brain, when we are processing sounds, there's also a second, like a background processing, which processes noises. And at some point that gets tired of processing things,
so much
information. So keep it short, keep it with quality. And of course, if you enhance also your voice variations, because the microphone only amplifies what you are doing with your voice. It will not change the tone, will not change, the fit, unless you are playing with the
nitty-gritty details.
Yes, special software. But the voice will only amplify what you are doing. But you're probably doing a lot of things right already. So at least don't compromise the quality
of the
channel that is transporting your voice to other people's
super cool. Inês, I want to challenge you. Could you walk us through what a simple 30 seconds voice warm-up would look like before someone going in an important meeting, what they can do to level up the quality of the voice?
No, of course. First, let me just say what is my philosophy beyond warm-ups, which is also for me a division between myself and other experts in the industry. Whilst vocal warm-ups got very popular because of the theater, because of the singing world, it was part of the routines of every professional. I actually think that warm-up exercises need a context. So you do warm-up exercises for what your voice needs, not generic warm-ups, because you might not need that exercises and you might need others. So either you do some exercises that are for your type of voice or the need that you want. For example, I might want to make my voice a bit more stable, because I might have the tendency to go a bit more high pitch when I start speaking. So I need to bring it down, to bring it to a stable position. Others might want to warm up the voice to speak a bit more stronger, because they might speak too soft. So they need to project a bit more. So that's why different needs need different warm-ups. And also, going a bit beyond that, I believe that if you use your voice as it should be, then you don't need even to warm up. I mean, if your voice is operating from a place where it's natural, it's physiologically healthy, and you already have the well-balanced muscles and the way you breathe, the way you resonate, amplify the voice, the way you articulate. If that is already an habit, you need less and less warm-up exercises, only for very specific things. So
you don't fix what is not broken. You don't fix
exactly. So first you try to not have it broken, and then you don't need the exercise. But I will give you 3 that I like, and they are safe, and I think it's quite universal. The first that I like, and it might feel controversial because you want to have more energy in the voice, but I also have this in the book, is yawning. So if you yawn, let's say we are like 1 minute before your meeting, or 2 minutes, the time that sometimes you have to grab a glass of water or a coffee. So yawning allows you to open the channel of the voice. So if you yawn, and if you touch your throat, you see here next to the chin, you see that everything opens when you yawn. So that you are creating the space for the voice to get through. So I like the yawn, and you can also yawn with this I would say like this very relaxed side, like this, because that also relaxes the voice before you start. So yawn is one good routine that is good for everyone. Second is what I call the voice jacuzzi, and it's doing the humming sounds. Basically, is to prolong the sound as long as you can without
like the Buddha kind of
like the Buddha, like the hum of yoga. Of course, this hasn't any connotation, like any spiritual connotation, but is interesting for activate the breathing, because if you do it in a prolonged way, like 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds, actually you are activating your breathing capacity. And also by using the which is a nasal sound, it also activates the voice, the resonance in your upper cavities. So the nose, the upper pharynx, the mouth. So if we do like this, it starts to massage the vocal folds and starts to bring the voice to a more upper place where it will be more clear and audible and projected, etc. And also you can play with, like, if you tend to be monotone, if you do like this, like you are tasting very good food, like this pasta is delicious, you are actually also activating the muscles that do the tonality. So
with this wave.
Yeah, it seems like a motor, like And then the third that I like and I want to suggest to you and all your audience is to exaggerate, like open and exaggerate a bit the chewing movements, because chewing, we do the same movements as speaking. We don't really make that connection, but if we chew, like in a more exaggerated way, like moving our lips, it's almost like facial yoga, facial massage.
Yeah.
Like you really open your mouth, you move your lips. So like pretending that you are chewing like a big chewing gum also helps you with articulation. The words will come out easily, more clearly. And of course, then you can combine the exercise 2 or 3. So you can chew like, and then you are like doing 3 in 1, like resonance, articulation, tonality. So yeah, but exercises are so silly after,
it is enough for 5 minutes before any meeting. You practice one of these 4 tools you just give, and people will naturally be more prepared for embracing the conversation.
Definitely, you will start much better. You will start much more confident, loud, with the right tone, with the right articulation. You might feel like your blood coming into your face around your lips when you do the chewing. Might feel a bit funny, like some vibration in the nose. So that is a good sign. It's meaning that you are activating the voice. But what I see, and I'm going to be honest, because that's why I'm not a huge fan of vocal warm-ups when you don't have a voice-guided training behind, is that it might last only, 20 minutes or 15 minutes effect.
Not sustained.
Because it's a muscular effect. Like you warm up the muscles, then, for example, you speak 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or 5 minutes, and then you have to give the floor to your colleague. So your voice might lose a bit the effect of that muscular activation. And then you go back a bit to what is a bit too, okay? So that's why, but if you already have a memory from your training sessions about how to do that voice that you want to do throughout the whole meeting, then the warm-up, and it's more like a calibration to just end that memory that you already have. And that is much easier.
Then you can sustain for the rest of the pitch.
If you don't have the memory of you speaking with firm voice or with more intonations or with more pause, then it's going to be difficult, especially in the middle of a difficult meeting, to think about the voice whilst you think about the content. So the voice has to be trained before and outside these important meetings. So when you are there, you don't have to think about your voice anymore. It's just there.
This has been super valuable. So many takeaways people can actually, after listening to us, start implementing and reviewing their daily habits. I have just one. I could spend the rest of the day talking with you. But I only have like one left. Talking about those filler sounds. I think I just used one that probably in post-edit, Sandra will take care of it and remove some of the ums from this podcast. But is there anything you can suggest to people when speaking? How can we get rid of these things we put in between the words when we're singing?
Don't memorize a speech. When we memorize the speech, we do much more those ums, or either if you are reading from a script, script or memorizing a script, you might do more these ums.
Wow.
Because
But it was the other way around.
Because you are remembering what you had written and prepared, and you try to kind of do this exercise of remembering.
Interesting.
So it says prepare without memorize. Second is, if you write your preparation, make sure that you don't read what you prepared, because we normally do much longer sentences in our preparation, summaries, work documents than we are able to say in our conversation, in our presentation, or in our meeting. So make sure that you make shorter sentences where you can pause and read in between. And then, because you don't need all that connections, like, and also, because the idea never ends.
Sentence.
Like, make sense. So make shorter blocks of information that makes it easier to breathe in between without trying to connect every single piece of the information. And the third and last is to be comfortable with silence. We often struggle so much to hear silence. Really. There's a psychological effect. I have a theory that we fear silence because the way we were educated in school. Because when you have a silence, meaning that you don't know the answer. So we struggle with silence, and also we struggle with interruptions. So you think that if you make a 1 second silence, someone will jump and take your spot. Take your spot. So we avoid it, and we prefer to do to kind of signal that we are still speaking. So please don't interrupt me. But it's the other way around. You know, if people get tired of listening to your ums and then they will probably interrupt you more. So own it, own the silence, and be comfortable with them.
Thank you so much for your time today. It was incredible. I really liked the conversation we had. Maybe we can have you in a future podcast edition so we can continue this conversation. And for the audience listening to us, how can they find more about you? Any upcoming projects you want to share?
Yes. So first, I want to say that you have 3 ways to keep knowing more about voice. One is to connect with me on LinkedIn. So Inês Moura, Executive Vocal Coach. The second is to go to actually, you will also share, if you want, you can also share. I have in my Instagram bio a link where you can find a self-assessment guide where you can download and start self-assessing your voice and see what could be a good starting point for you to work on your voice. And the third, of course, is to order the book. It's available in all Amazons, The Secret Power of the Voice, which is also good. Yes, Pedro, thank you I also have it here. It's a good starting point for you to explore. So that will be a recommendation. If you want to learn more, you can start with these 3 little steps that takes like 2 seconds each.
Thank you so much, Inês. We will make sure that we include the link for people to do the self-assessment that you have in the Instagram. And also don't forget to follow Productized on LinkedIn and subscribe to the podcast for more great conversation like this. See you soon.
Bye-bye.